This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to All Elite Wrestling, an independent podcast. We're not here to suck on the teat of All Elite Wrestling. We're going to give you the real shit, baby. AEW, Everything Elite. That's the name of our podcast. Couldn't think of it. Everything Elite. Don't be confused by the imitators and the haters. This is how I start every podcast. This is your first episode. This is how I start them all. So get excited. I'm joined, as always, this is what I do next, by Nate, aka Epitasis. What's up, Nate?
Hello, Aaron. Hello, real EE pod heads out there. I was going to do my bit where I say no banter and then just move on, but you brought so much weird energy right off the top of the show that I feel like I can't just let that go by. We're here to do a little teat sucking, not like full-on official sanctioned podcast teat sucking, but like the runoff teat suck. That's us.
Yeah, I mean, the little milk that comes out, that's basically our Patreon. We get a little bit of the milk from the teat of AEW, but we still talk mad shit. So it's just what we do. On that endeavor, we're joined, of course, by Mike Spears, who looks fucking terrified to be here. How's it going, Mike?
It's less that I'm terrified, it's that you completely broke me within the first 45 seconds of this podcast. Hey, y'all, it's your old pal, Iron Mike Spears. This is supposed to be one of our big shows, and we're less than a minute in, and we've completely lost it. So buckle in, guys. It's going to be a wild ride tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I've been at a deposition for like 4 hours, and I had to drive an hour back and forth both ways. So I'm feeling good. Everything AEW is our Twitter account. Check it out. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji. Heya. That's Fuji with 2 eyes, like Don Fuji. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Give us a rating and review if you're using Apple Podcasts app. And check out patreon.com/Everything Elite, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But tonight on the show, we've got Elite or Delete. We're going to run down everything that happened on Dynamite on Wednesday night this week. And we're going to preview AEW's Revolution pay-per-view, which is coming up in just a couple of days this Saturday. Of course, it depends on when you're listening to this, when that is. But it's coming up Saturday, February 29th. We're going to preview it. We're going to talk ratings. But we're going to start with Elite or Delete. And as is customary, Nate, a.k.a. Epitasis, give us your Elite pick of the week.
I didn't realize that was had been formalized, that I was the first person to go for the Elite or Delete segment, but I will take that honor. My Elite pick is the AEW brass hearing my complaints on this show last week about not getting enough insight into the Kenny Omega position in this feud between Kenny and Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks, and just not really understanding where he fit into all that. So they gave us a direct response to that, a sit-down segment with the Elite, with Adam Page, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, and good old JR, and just a great pre-tape segment. They're killing the pre-tape segments lately. You get the Bucks motivation for the match in there. You get Kenny being split between them, but shaded a bit by his frustration with Adam Page being a total drunk. And then, of course, you get the superstar Adam Page just acting up a storm in the segment. Was tremendous, built the match great. I think this is now my top most anticipated match on this upcoming show is this World Tag Team title match between the members of the Elite.
Yeah, they really knocked this segment out of the park here. I mean, the awkwardness and the tension was palpable to the point of big secondhand embarrassment. Mike Spears over here just being like, I don't think I like this segment for a while. And then Adam Page just kind of just blew up, said, "Oh, my glass is empty, I'm out of here," and walked off like a badass. So I think they've done a great job building up this match that they really only had 2 weeks of hard build, but you now have basically the last 2 months of like simmering build to this. And then also, I don't know how much we're going to get into this on the show proper itself. On the countdown special, they did a great job of building it as well, where you had the separate tag teams have sit down, just straight into the camera interviews, and the whole one with Kenny and Adam Page, where Page was just getting more and more frustrated as it went along, and he stormed off because they were asked, Kenny, are you concerned about Page? And he didn't get an immediate response. So he was like, I'm out of here. And then Kenny was like, I was going to say I wasn't worried, but guess what? I'm very worried. And I think that was just a great job, a home run from both the segment here and then the segment on the countdown special. So I think they're knocking out of the park here. I mean, all 3 title matches, I feel like between the 3-hour block last night, I think they did a solid to great job of building. I mean, I think they did a tremendous job here, especially the sit-down interview. These sit-down interviews are usually the best parts of the program. So yeah, they knocked it out of the park here.
See, it's funny. I also loved this segment. I thought the Bucks were great. You start to see like a little slight heel turn from the Bucks when they're saying like, you were a jobber in Ring of Honor. You were nothing. We put you on being the elite and made you a star. We brought you in the Bullet Club. I mean, brutal stuff there. A little bit of a heel turn, I think.
That's I don't think so. I think it's consistent with their characters. You go back to, I don't remember what it was. It was probably a road to maybe a BTE before the big Lucha Brothers match, where they were like, all these other teams get their shine and people start talking about them, and people start forgetting about the Young Bucks as one of the best tag teams in the world. And it sticks in their craw a little bit, and like, well, fuck that. We want to show people that we're still the best. And I thought, yeah, Matt Jackson did a good job conveying that and communicating. No, like, we're competitors. Like, we do, funny shit and the skits and all this, and we're friends with, Kenny and Paige here, but they were intent on communicating, we're competitors and we want to have the belts because we still believe that we're the best. And we think, the show should reflect that.
I don't think they're actually turning heel. I just think that Adam Page is the babyface in this story. And the point of that was to make that clear. Otherwise, there's no point to it, in my opinion, except to make you start rooting for Adam Page.
I think the Bucks have always been heelish. Like, that's the thing. Like, somewhat not like going towards a heel turn, but just the fact that pretty much since the whole Bullet Club thing started for them in 2012, 2013, they've been cocky heels, but it's just been the thing that like the Western fan base first into Japan and now the overall All Elite fan base get down with it. And it's not like that this is outside their motivations here. And it's just that Paige is just the very frustrated dad who just would not want anything to do this, constantly going to the convenience store for cigarettes. And Kenny is just the kid there kind of waiting and saying like, what's going on here? What's going on here? So, I mean, they basically made Kenny the crux of the storyline going into Revolution. I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out because, yeah, Paige has to be the babyface coming out of this, but the Bucks have been heels all along. And that's something that I just firmly believe that they've been heels. And it's just that the crowd, because they always do heel actions, they always have heel motivations in matches. And it's just that the crowd cheers for the heels here.
I don't totally disagree. They don't do any, I mean, they certainly got over doing heel stuff like in PWG and New Japan. That was like a lot of the appeal of the Bullet Club, of course. And in PWG, the cartwheel, handspring, back rakes, and all that sort of shit, and just leaning into it. And that's certainly what made them stars in the first place. But like the focal point of all their matches in this promotion have been like their babyface comebacks and Matt Jackson's rolling Northern Lights and shit. So they're pretty firmly faces, but I think we kind of get into the weeds trying to divine who the face and heel is in this promotion because it's not that important to the stories, I don't think. Or, the promotion doesn't hit it so hard that it has to be a clear thing. But I do think it's interesting that Aaron thought that Paige is positioned as the babyface here because I think in the last week, 2 weeks, they've made him less sympathetic in the most recent stuff than he's been in the rest of the story. Starting with last week's BTE, starting with this week's BTE, and then with these pre-tapes, it seems to me they're, leaning more on the fact that he's letting his tag team partner down because he's, feeling sorry for himself and drinking himself into a hole or whatever. So That's interesting. You know, he's still fundamentally likable because he's like just like a very likable wrestler and guy, and he sort of projects that even when he's being like a shitty drunk. But I do think they've axed into that part recently.
It was just the thing where he's like, this is the biggest accomplishment of my life, and you all want to just step in at the very first chance and take it from me. And that, to me, is what establishes him as the babyface in the story, as the guy you're supposed to root for. Because it's like, yeah, this is a guy who was like a fucking high school teacher. I mean, if you know the whole story, if the whole story is baked into your headcanon here, then it's like he was a regular dude. He was a jobber in Ring of Honor. They did make him a star by putting him on Being the Elite and letting him come into the Bullet Club. But then he took advantage of that opportunity, became a star here in All Elite Wrestling, and got this big accomplishment by winning the tag titles. And now the Bucks are like, wait a fucking second. I know we haven't really beaten anybody, but actually we should get the shot at your titles. And actually we're going to take them because we're better than you. So I think it's really easy to root for Paige. And the reason that's important, I think, is just there's been a lot of talk about, like, is Paige turning here in this story? And the reason I wanted to focus on this is because I think this tells us pretty clearly that nobody's really turning here, but Adam Page is going to be the good guy at the end of the day.
Right. And I just think that Page's motivations are purely face motivations. He has natural resentment for the guys that after he told them, I want to go my own way, I don't want to do this elite stuff anymore, these guys are resentful for it. They're not honoring his decision. They're not being like, oh, you're your own person. And that's something that I feel like that's been baked into almost everything about this, is that the Bucks are not like taking Paige seriously. And I feel like that's a natural frustration. And I think that's a very, I think that's a frustration that fans and people can like follow and internalize, because it's like, oh no, like people either like dismissing you or just disregarding your wishes. And I think that Paige here is inherently likable, even though he's someone who is drinking constantly. I don't think that's a negative personality trait.
Okay, they're definitely casting it as a negative personality trait because he keeps being shitty to his friends. But so, you know, I don't disagree with you, Aaron, that's like sympathetic, that, you know, he's got this thing that he's proud of and his friends are like, you know, putting him in a tough position about it. But in pro wrestling logic, it's not a babyface quality to feel sorry for yourself. It's not a babyface quality to want to keep the belt just because you have it and you don't want to defend it and you don't want to wrestle the best tag team and prove that you deserve it. That's not a babyface quality in pro wrestling. In pro wrestling, you know, the babyface quality is like, oh, I'll take on all comers. I'm a fighting champion. You know, I don't care what my condition is. I don't care what the odds are. I'll go out there with, you know, a fucked up knee and I'll wrestle the match and come out on top. Like, that's the sort of fighting spirit kind of shit that traditionally works in pro wrestling. So it just seems to me they're leaning more on him being a little shittier and a little more of a sad sack and a little less of a, you know, likable Stone Cold Steve Austin drunk just in this last week, 2 weeks. And I think that's something to keep an eye on as we move toward this tag match.
I'm just saying, as someone who feels sorry for themselves, you know, it's relatable and sympathetic to me personally. All right, Mike, your elite pick of the week.
Well, I feel like this is no surprise here. It's the Iron Man match, baby. I mean, I felt like that this is my now. I say this every couple weeks, but this is by far my favorite match they've had on TV. I feel like that this was in a lot of ways, the Iron Man match can be something that's overwrought and they just overbook it and they just make it into a ridiculous kind of farce in of itself. But they laid down the law very clear in this match. Like, okay, after each fall, we're pausing the clock and there's going to be 30 seconds recovery time, which makes sense because rather than have someone just like if you're playing like No Mercy or Day of Reckoning and you just like get the one DQ with the chair and then you immediately roll up for pins, it makes sense. And they really let that be a part of it. And Pac just, oh my God, just was willing to go for it in a lot of different ways and a very brutal match. And they came out of this match like really. This was a match that's supposed to be a rubber match and a feud ender, but both the guys came out of it, I think, looking incredibly strong. Pac, of course, can say, hey, you only lost that first fall because I decided to get disqualified. And this overtime period, I didn't agree with this overtime period, and that can just fuel his righteous indignation. And then Pac was able to basically punish Kenny Omega for half an hour. But I thought this was just incredible work from both guys here. And even like the stuff that got a little overwrought with like the referee bump and then doing table spots, I feel like it worked well. And the how they built up this match and this feud, and especially for something that was been pretty much on the back burner, at least for Kenny Omega, whereas Pac always really was devoted to this feud, and this has been his prime motivation. I feel like that this was a big way of kind of tapping into it, and I feel like they built this up very well, and I feel like that the payoff of this match is give both the guys motivations. Now you have the idea of Kenny Omega going into Revolution now, having wrestled 33 minutes 3 nights before, having like basically have 2 of those minutes being stuck in the brutalizer and then chair shots being driven through tables. And then that fucking Falcon Arrow from the apron to the floor was just like a nasty move. And this was exactly what I would want from the style of match. And it kind of made this show in a way that you had the first quarter to 30% of the show tied up in this match. And this match never dragged. And if anything, it gave like so much like energy boost for like the remaining hour and a half of the show that I like looked at my watch. I know I tweeted about this. I was like, oh wait, this was done really well because I'm still like super into the show enough so that I'm just going to keep my TV on TNT and watch Countdown right afterwards because I don't feel burnt out by this match at all. I feel like that was a big worry going into this match is you could very easily burn out a crowd in this match, but it didn't. And I feel like that this was the great start to one of their better episodes of TV they've had so far.
On the point of match burnout, I do want to put over how well laid out all these television shows are. I really think it's remarkable, and I think the degree of difficulty is probably underrated on it, but they are pretty seamlessly going from matches to, sports entertainment segments to matches in and out of commercial without breaking like the energy or the stride of the show for the live audience. And seeing that on the Fight TV stream every week where, it's basically like a continuous 2-hour wrestling program, but they're smartly setting things out and laying things out so that, the big important things aren't being missed on television is kind of remarkable. But yeah, great match. Obviously, people are saying Kenny Omega is back now. That's being said, or so I hear. He turned in some great matches already here in 2020. And yeah, these guys are just so well suited for each other. Like they're I don't know, like mirror images of each other, or foils, kind of like both undersized guys, one in the UK, one in Canada, that went to Japan and basically is very young wrestlers, cut their teeth in Japan as juniors, learned that style, and then just packed on muscle to an obscene degree. And, before becoming stars in the West, basically. So even like Pac has the black hair, black trunks, and Kenny has like the blonde hair and pastel and all this shit. Like they really are well suited for like rivals in that way. And even just like their offense looks great each other. Like you don't see the Kreutz Wrath look any better than it looked in this match with Pac getting dumped on, his giant fucking shoulders and neck on the way down. Just like a great series of very cool spots in this match, mostly.
And it's cool that the One Winged Angel and the Brutalizer are easily, flowed into each other. It's like sometimes can to me be really cheesy where it's like one guy tries to hit his finish and then the other guy tries to hit his finish, but they could make it flow in a way that made a lot more sense because of the similarity of or not the similarity of their offense, but the way their offense meshes. So that was good. Yeah, this was obviously great. I mean, I love that as Chris Samsa, I hope I'm saying that right, said this on Twitter, it was the very first disqualification in the promotion. So, Nate doesn't totally
So I take issue with that. I saw that tweet. I kind of object to that because we can't really give them credit for waiting until now to do a disqualification when on the first show there was stuff that should have been a disqualification. They just didn't call it. Like it's kind of a cheat, right? Like they had John Moxley run in that match and they're just like, oh, the match continues, whatever. So it's like,
that was dumb.
I don't really want to give them credit. We had a lot of distraction finishes on this show too, like the Darby thing. There was another one. It doesn't come to mind at the moment, but kind of, don't really want to give them credit for all the clean finishes to this point.
I don't think it's that. It's just that there's an expectation that's set that like there's certain things you can get away with and certain things you can't get away with. And so I'm glad that, I mean, in New Japan, for example, you can hit somebody with a fucking chair on the outside of the ring.
Yes.
That's fine. It's allowed. And I'm okay with that. Like I'm with like the what goes on in New Japan. I understand the rules and I understand it when you're outside of the ring, it just really doesn't matter as much. And that's fine. But AEW set up at least this, that you can't just hit somebody with a chair on the outside. So
yeah, it's good to see that there is some line, even though
sure,
we'll have to see if that, they continue to adhere to that going forward. If that was just the only disqualification we see because it was an easy cheat for them to protect somebody in a fall in this match, then it kind of doesn't, feel that honest to me either.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing that I think is interesting about this match, and it's going to play into our disagreement about who the babyface is in this tag team feud, because Kenny is set up to be the baby. Well, it's set up in one of two ways, right? He can be a big babyface because he got beat down so much in this match. And obviously, and they mentioned it during this match, it's going to be part of the story of the tag title match, him being able to put up with this, taking the brutalization from Pac. And can he come back in this tag match? Or is he going to be so beat down that he comes up short in this tag title match? So I think that can play in one way or the other in this tag match.
They set it up so he can come up short, lose, and then Adam Page gets mad at him for blowing his biggest accomplishment in his life and viciously turns on Kenny for blowing the match. And
if Page does that, he'll be right. Kenny should have never taken this match.
Kenny is
never
sympathetic. He's a fighter. He's a fighting mega campeon.
No.
And he went out there to go to war with Pac.
No,
that's what babyfaces do.
Kenny Omega said that Jon Moxley was wrong for going and doing the G1 when he had this big match set up with Kenny Omega.
That's in a different company.
No, he said that Jon Moxley was wrong for not protecting himself in advance of this huge match in Chicago with Kenny Omega. And now Kenny Omega did the same thing. So if they lose and Adam Page is mad about it, he's right.
Okay, pretty good argument, but Pac put him in an indefensible position because he was, killing Michael Nakazawa and menacing Riho and shit. So, it was a lose-lose for Kenny in that regard. He couldn't just continue to ignore Pac, or Pac might have come out and, cost him the title at the pay-per-view. Who knows?
This is real headcanon shit, but if that's how this story goes, it would be brilliant. It'd be so fun. Okay, I'll be I got just a simple.
You really just called your own point brilliant. Just if they do exactly what I said, then they're brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's clear. I got a quick elite pick for the week. I mean, this was a really good show. It's another one of those shows where it's hard to find too much to be mad about. And my pick is the Painmaker Posse, baby. Because at first I was like, wait, they're already called the Inner Circle. Do they really need another name? But then as you kind of like watch the whole thing play out, it's like for this weigh-in, it's like a joke about having your UFC crew for the weigh-in. They got the cool tracksuits. The logo that they made up is pretty nice. It's just like fun. Somebody should have had a gold chain. That would have made it better. But other than that, I just really enjoyed it. It added a bit of levity to a segment, and we'll talk about the segment later, I'm sure, that could have been really dumb and bad, and it turned out to have this like perfect vibe and be a lot of fun. And a big part of it was the Painmaker Posse.
Yeah, this whole segment, I love how they've decided that their go-home segment for each pay-per-view so far is just, let's just have a complete batshit brawl where everyone kind of comes out and it's absolute mayhem. The only way you're going to get some sort of resolution is if you go to BR Live and pay your $50 and go watch the pay-per-view. Like, this was exactly what you needed. The Painmaker Posse coming out doing the Gracie. they all were doing a Gracie train on the way out there with Jericho. Just like all this pomp and circumstances happening when just Moxley shows up in a cutoff hoodie and shorts and just goes, takes care of it, and that's it. Whereas Jericho just completely like burying Kansas City, burying Gary Michael Capetta, just completely a master of what he was doing. And then it flowed in really well to this all-out brawl between everyone that had a feud with Inner Circle, and it just paid off really well. This was just a really smart thing, and they really like having big blood in their final segment of a show, because now I feel like it's like the last 3 weeks there's been blood in the go home segment. So I mean, this was an absolute great payoff, and of course the most important thing is we don't know how much Chris Jericho weighs. I mean, he said he was getting in such good shape for this, but I mean, Moxley was able to do this. Like, could he actually be in the best shape of his career? I mean, we're going to spring training. So many guys are getting in there in the best. They're reporting the best shape of their career. So is that also the case of Chris Jericho going to this title match?
I don't know. All I know is that I'm in the best shape of my podcasting career. You know, I was pretty sick last week. I had to drink a lot of Dayquil to get going, but I'm starting to feel better, which I'm excited about. I was worried. I'm on about day 11 of being sick, but I'm starting to get better. Day 10, I was like, okay, maybe I should go to the doctor. But I was looking at my insurance shit and realized that going to urgent care was about the same as going to the ER. I would have to pay like 100% of it straight up. And I don't have a primary care doctor. And so I figured it would probably take me a while to get a visit with a primary care doctor, which made me think, I wonder, on average, how many days people in this country have to wait to see a doctor? What do you think, Mike? How long do you think that takes?
I have no idea. I think it takes forever. I know whenever I try to get into my doctor or try to get a new one, it is a month maybe. I wouldn't say like I usually book like a month in advance.
Well, buddy, Americans have to wait around 29 days to see
Oh, so
a
it's
doctor.
close. I was I was near the dot. Okay.
That's in major U.S. cities. Now, I've just been dealing with a cold, but if you're dealing with a condition like erectile dysfunction, you want treatment as soon as possible. That's why our friends at Roman have spent years building a digital platform that can connect you with a doctor licensed in your state, all from the comfort of your home. Roman makes it convenient to get the treatment you need on your schedule. All you got to do is you grab your phone or your computer, you complete a free online visit, and you'll hear back from a U.S. licensed physician within 24 hours. And the great news from that is if the doctor decides the treatment is right for you, then Roman's Pharmacy can ship your medication to you with free 2-day shipping. You also get free unlimited follow-ups with your doctor anytime you have questions or want to adjust your treatment plan. With Roman, there are no commitments. You can cancel anytime. So if you're struggling with ED, go to getroman.com/VOW for a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. That's getroman.com/VOW for a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. VOW like Voices of Wrestling, folks. It's easy. So getroman.com/VOW.
There's got to be a bit we can do here about Roman Reigns and the whole FTR thing, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be, we got to workshop that a little bit for our next Roman ad read.
Okay. I'm going to think about that.
Yeah.
This time I decided to just go straight. Like, this is a real story about my healthcare.
Yeah. No. And I have noticed our friend Brian tweeting about like he has to get on a list to even make an appointment. It's like a waiting list for the care that he needs. Like,
that's right.
So yeah, being able to cut that step out and get, some of your immediate issues addressed through an online system like this and an appointment that way, a good little cheat for it.
You'd love to see it. All right. Ratings for this week. AEW down slightly.
Deleting things? Did we delete things?
Oh, I didn't delete, did I?
We didn't delete anything.
Did everybody? Nobody deleted anything, did they?
No. I thought we were going to get back to deleting after you after we did that raid.
I jumped the gun. I'm sorry, folks. Let's delete some stuff. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, let's get down to it.
Nate, go ahead, buddy. Delete.
So I'll delete basically a little bit of these Revolution feuds and the build here kind of being a little paint by numbers. I referred earlier to the distraction finishes on this show. You have Darby's feuding with Sammy Guevara. So Darby comes out during Sammy's match and grabs the sock full of baseballs and, sort of costs him the match that way. You have this ongoing feud with like the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny and the best friends. And you have the in-ring confrontation with Allie and Orange Cassidy that builds off the Battle Royal last week. Very fun little bit here, but it leads directly to the finish again. And kind of like it's like a backwards ass distraction finish. And it's just this thing where I like having the characters bounce off each other a little bit. I like having Dustin Rhodes wants to come out to take out Jake Hager because he fucking hates him that much. That all computes to me, but it just feels a little bit like, oh, well, this guy's feuding with this guy. So this guy comes out during this guy's segment, and this guy's feuding with this guy. So you just have all these guys come out and do the big brawl. Just a little bit, a little bit paint by numbers, a little bit rote, perhaps. Something like earlier in the feud, you had John Moxley take those keys and stab him in Santana's eye and get away. Like, that's just a little bit more of a more fun, a more colorful kind of way to advance that feud, I thought, instead of just doing, oh, well, they're going to brawl now. So that's what again, kind of reaching here. Another strong episode on this television program, but that's sort of my glaring issue, I thought.
Well, I can actually respond to this and use it as fuel to mine. And you talked about how there was a lot of interference. It was kind of paint by numbers like this. It does feel like that the last things that they added to this Revolution show, like the build for a lot of this stuff has been very strong. Like Jericho and Moxley, you know how I love my beats. They've had beats nearly every single week going into it. Cody and MJF, like they had their last beat. So we were at a point where it does stink that they weren't on the show, but you didn't really need them because you had that point, and you don't need to have everyone on TV every week, And then you look at stuff like they basically decided, oh, wait, Pac's over. We need to find something to do. He's going to have a match with Orange Cassidy. I think it's going to be incredible. I think they will be the sleeper match of the night, to be quite frank. I think they'll be much better than Aaron Bentley's favorite match on the show being Dustin Rhodes and Jake Hager, just for the record. And then you have this SCU and Dark Order thing that, yes, that's been something simmering for a long time with Chris Daniels, but they just kind of booked it with a random video cut in, and it just was something that happened out of nowhere. So if there's anything that I was really going to nitpick on the show, it does seem like that for this Revolution build, the stuff that is firmly how it feels like is being presented as bottom of the card just kind of got a little bit just wedged in here towards the end. Not that I'm complaining, but it's something that it does make you think of, okay, they could only really handle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things going on at the same time that, with someone like Pac, who's been so consumed with Kenny Omega, you just wonder, could there have been something like building up to it? But I thought they did a good job for Orange Cassidy for this. And I think it's, again, going to be a strong match on the show. It's just does feel kind of like they've wedged like these last few matches on.
Yeah, so I think the Orange Cassidy and Pac match, I think also is going to be awesome. I think the content of the segment where, Orange like takes off his sunglasses, signifying that he's getting serious here for a minute, was a fun little moment there. But, and again, this is also doesn't probably matter because they've built the top 2 matches really well. And those are the matches that matter. And those are the matches that sell pay-per-views. So, again, kind of nitpicking to complain about the builds for the lower card matches. But yes, you're kind of, just basically this Orange Cassidy is just going to walk out and make himself a match. It's a little perfunctory, and they don't do pay-per-views every week. Or every month. That would be, more understandable if they did these shows every single month, but it's been 3 months since the last pay-per-view. So you could have planted a couple more seeds perhaps on something like that. Pac and Orange Cassidy had that really fun interaction in that 6-man that was on Dark, I think. But we don't know that has anything to do with this match that's happening here. This just felt out like, oh, Orange Cassidy's going to walk out here and get himself a match now. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, I kind of don't think it is too much to ask because it's been 3 months. I feel like every match should have a little something to sink my teeth into. And, there was nothing for Cody and MJF on this episode.
They had the video package that was
that's
partially.
Not enough. That's not enough for like that heated of a feud.
But what could you really do at this point? Like
I don't know. Build your fucking shows better. I mean,
okay,
build it out week to week better so that you can hit your peak here. That's a match that should sell pay-per-views.
So it is. Maybe you can't peak 2 feuds on the same show. Maybe that's a concern. They just wanted to give the shine to the world title match on this show, which maybe is the smart thing to do. But the video just didn't capture the intensity of the feud. Well-produced video and everything, but you just don't see the blood feud that you want in a big match going to the pay-per-view like this. So yeah, kind of an unusual decision, but maybe they just didn't have a great idea for it. And they thought, well, if we don't have something great for it, maybe better to do nothing and avoid bringing the feud down a step by, throwing a wet towel on it.
Well, let's talk about another wet towel. Here's what I want to delete. the fucking women's match
Ooh.
on this show. This 4-way match, and it's really indicative of how bad the women's division has become in AEW. I've been a big proponent, defender of the talent in this division, but it is being really poorly served by AEW right now. It's become a division that's reminiscent of the pre-Women's Revolution WWE, in that nothing matters. The title doesn't matter. It's not built for anything. When have they ever built a big title match for the women's division on these pay-per-views? You get nothing. We got the world title match, the men's world title match, great build. The tag title match, great build. The women's title match, nothing. Not shit. Been just thrown together. And it's been booked backwards the way we've talked about on this show. I mean, even this match was like a shitty WWE women's match. It was just like, I mean, the way it's agented was like, oh, how about if we just, everybody tries to roll each other up? That'd be fun. I mean, it looked exactly like a WWE 4-way women's match. It was dumb. It served no purpose. I mean, it helped continue to build Sheeta a little bit, but I have no faith at this point that they're going to do something interesting with that in a way that's going to feel big and important later. And I'm just worried that the women's division has kind of been cast aside like it usually is in American wrestling. And it's just bad times for the women's division in AEW.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think, the reality of the promotion to this point is you pretty much get one women's segment on the show, or you get one women's match, and maybe you get a promo package or a promo. And that's what we get as far as story or, advancement in the women's division in this promotion. And, it might just be indicative of how they prioritize women in this promotion. Because, I mean, this is not the first time on this television show that they've brought out attractive women just as set dressing and been like, okay, pretty girls, you stand in the back. Bikini models, you stand in the back. And I don't know, it's very weird that the WWE basically treats women more equitably than AEW does. Because as you said, AEW certainly has top flight talent in that department, but they're not presented or marketed that way.
Yeah, and I did get into a longer discussion today with folks about the women's division on the VOW Discord that I'm trying not to let flow into this match, because I feel like a lot of my opinions of the women's division just it's something when you have this very chaotic, maybe is the way I want to put it, piecemeal division in a lot of ways, just because of some of it. I don't think it's fault of the talent here. I like to make this clear. I think it's fault of whoever's in talent acquisitions, talent relations, whoever did the scouting, that you have this kind of match. And I feel like this match is very indicative of this, because you have someone like Big Swole and AB. You know how much of a fan I'm of Big Swole and how I feel like that Big Swole could really be one of the true stars of the women's division as soon as she gets more experience and gets more comfortable on TV. But how is someone supposed to like really get better on TV when you have like this kind of match where you have like 2 minutes of roll-ups that not a lot of them look good, and then you're like, oh, we need to go do some things to get people out of the ring, and then oh, we need to have like this really terrible looking double team or this double stomp off the turnbuckle into 2 people because hey, you've got to eliminate these people. And it's something that like we're getting to a point now where we could kind of look at things over a 12-month time frame, especially with like the women they have in this promotion, the women they've introduced. And I don't know necessarily if it's putting people in the right positions to perform, or that they just don't really have an idea of. You have someone like Shauna who is talented and has been a part of feuds like this, but this was probably one of her bigger positions here. I mean, functionally, the women main evented Dynamite, because you did have like the big go home segment, but this was the last match out there, and it was just like set up in a way that I think like was destined to fail. And I think that goes again to like your talent related relations people, like knowing who you have and how to put these athletes in their right position so they could perform at the best of their abilities. And you have like Yuka Sakazaki, who has been someone that's been a very big bright spot of this promotion. And whenever she's been over here, she's been easily one of the top 5 women in the division. And she's over here when you have something for her to do. Let's throw her into this 4-way dance and just kind of just exist in this. It just doesn't seem this was a match that was whoever was coaching or aging in this like set this up to fail, and then you put people in position to fail, and I think that's what we got here, and this was just a terrible match.
I thought the match was really fine, but just the division is not being put in a position to succeed.
Yeah, like I mean that's what it is, and you like look at all the women who've been in and out of the company, and I think that's what it boils down to. Is it a statement that the Joshi have been the strong part here? Is that a statement on the Western wrestling scene and how tapped out women's wrestlers are because of the massive amount of talent acquisition that WWE has done over the last 6 years? Like, is that an aspect of it? But then you have people who are younger wrestlers and don't have more than 200 matches who are put out here in positions to fail instead of laying their growth fostered. And I think like this match, it kind of was like a boiling over point with me about that.
Yeah, the thing is, if you got 2 hours of TV a week and you're going to do one segment for women, you don't need that many wrestlers. You can build a compelling division around 5 to 6 people. So I'm not giving them a pass. I mean, it's true that WWE has tapped out the American women's wrestling scene, but I'm not giving them a pass on that because they have enough talent to build a compelling division,
right?
And they've just ignored it.
And they haven't, and the talent they have, they've not put in a position to succeed.
Agreed. It hasn't really caused much of an effect in ratings. We saw a slight drop this week for AEW, 893,000, 865,000. But when you look at the demo, it's basically the same, 0.31 down to a 0.30 this week. NXT, pretty similar story, down from 794 to 717, from a 0.25 in the demo to a 0.23. NXT was 17th in the demo on cable, AEW 9th. This has become pretty rote from week to week. The biggest takeaway is just that AEW's new normal is right around 900,000.
Right.
And they don't seem to be approaching 1 million anytime soon.
Yeah. And they have not come close to 1 million since the highest they've come close to 1 million was 967 on New Year's Day. And I think that this is the normal, and I don't know necessarily how you bring in the new fans to this. And you comparing it to the rest of cable, I mean, NBA was back, a lot of news because of primaries. And the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting out of all this was Countdown was right after it, and it did a 0.14 and a 383,000 viewers, which I thought was kind of interesting, just seeing how many people stuck around for that. I wonder if that's more than whatever Michael Bay movie they put on afterwards. But I think that kind of tells you that whenever they get their third hour, it has to be a second show, even though that's what we were already suspecting.
All right, let's run down what happened on Dynamite this week, at least that we haven't talked about already. Of course, it was the 30-minute Iron match kicking things off. Kenny Omega defeating Pac 2 falls to 1. Importantly here, the Bucks were out with Kenny, but Adam Page was not by ringside. Fall 1 is when Pac got disqualified for using a chair. Fall 2, Pac hit the Black Arrow on Omega. Time expired with Omega in the Brutalizer, and then Justin Roberts announced that the match was going to continue under sudden death rules. And then fall 3, we got Kenny winning with the one-winged angel. I think we've talked about this match at length.
It's like just have sudden death built into the match if you're going to do it every time.
Yeah.
Right. They're obviously going to do it every time.
Yeah. Although I didn't think the crowd was into it. So
yeah, I guess you do it for the pop, I guess, but it's, if again, they're not really sports, but if they're pretending they're sports, like you wouldn't throw to the back and have somebody make a judgment call. Hey, are we going to do a 5 more minutes here or what the fuck? It's silly.
After the match, we had Tony on the ramp with Pac. Tony basically says, hey, you talked all this shit to Kenny and then you lost, which is kind of funny. And Pac asked Tony if he's taking the piss. Orange Cassidy comes out. And as Nate mentioned, he takes off his sunglasses and Pac just lays his ass out, which we find out later sets up a match for Revolution.
Yeah, and thank God, like, because after that match, they had to sell it as like, oh shit, he was just in a fucking war. He's pissed off. He just lost. Like, if Orange Cassidy came out here and clowned on him, it would have killed Pac. So just thank God there was he's going to fucking brutalize Orange Cassidy, and that builds the match.
Then we see Lexi Nair outside the Painmaker Posse's locker room. Jake Hager answers the door, and Lexi asks a couple of questions. Will we be able to speak to Chris Jericho? Hager says nothing and closes the door.
Just as a side note, I know you were mostly off the computer today, AB, but Nate, did you see the new Inner Circle t-shirt that they put out today?
I did. The Guns N' Roses parody art.
Yeah, no, it is a really funny t-shirt. It's a really, they have the whole cross with the skulls on it, both each their heads on it, and it's just a good solid parody t-shirt. I just thought that they wanted to bring that up. It made me chuckle a little bit.
Guns N' Roses is good.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, the Jurassic Express defeated Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz. Jungle Boy pinned Sammy after Sammy had the sock. I said of quarters, but does it actually have quarters in it?
Baseball.
Baseballs. That's right. I knew it was something, and I was fucking it up. Anyway, Sammy had the sock of baseballs. Darby took the sock from him. We had a little distraction. Jungle Boy got the pin.
I feel like they've kind of killed Sammy just in terms of pinfalls leading up to this match. I guess the heat is that, he broke Darby's larynx or whatever. He just eats a lot of pinfalls.
I mean, just in general, he only got his first pinfall at the end of last year. So he's been the lost post, and it makes sense. But I thought this was a fun trios match. I think that Luchasaurus looks like he's finally fully back to 100%, which was something that was really noticeable, at least I think, over last fall.
This is where they did the video recap of the Cody MJF story. Then we went right into the Best Friends defeating the Butcher and the Blade. Trent pinned the Blade with a strong zero, but it's the combo with the double foot stomp from Chuck. And this was right after Orange Cassidy had this little interaction with the Bunny. And then he took out the Butcher with a dive.
Poor motherfucking Butcher, motherfucking Blade, and motherfucking Bunny here. Ever since they've come in, they've kind of settled in here. And it was a funny little face-off. And then I think the post-match stuff easily was the highlight of the segment.
Friend of the show, Rawl, accused me of wanting to come on here and be pissed about Butcher and the Blade losing. But it's I was pissed when I realized they were slotted as a bottom of the card team. And now they just are. So it didn't really strike me when it happened. It seemed like where they're slotted. After the match, we got Tony Schiavone with the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. He announces that it's going to be Pac versus Orange at Revolution. Tony says the Best Friends are on a hot streak. Chuck gets on the mic. He says, Pac thinks OC. I said OC because I typed that here. Pac thinks Orange Cassidy is a joke, but the joke is on Pac because this time Orange Cassidy is going to try. Very funny. Trent says, wait a second. Orange Cassidy hasn't actually said anything, so we don't know if he's going to try. But OC does give us I'm just going to call him OC. I'm just going with it. This gives us the thumbs up.
I think this is the best they've done at getting the Best Friends character across on television here for sure.
Yeah, no, this definitely had good, strong Chuck and Trent vibes. And, just let Chuck have a microphone and make sure he gets clearance ahead of time so he can say shit, because we know that he desperately wants to. And I thought this was a great way of kind of having as much as this is wedged on the show and that frustrates me, I think they did about as much heating up as this match really needs.
Not sure we can talk about this in the Revolution preview, but not sure, are they trying to heat up the Best Friends so they can be the next tag challenger? Or we'll see, or if it's the SCU Dark Order story, but we'll see where that goes. Next up, Hikaru Shida defeated Big Swole, Shanna, and Yuka Sakazaki. Shida pinned Big Swole with her running knee strike. Then we got a Dark Order video. They said the Exalted One is here. And at Revolution, they're going to show SCU the true power of Dark Order. And Chris Daniels is going to find out why he is now obsolete.
Yeah, so they continue to throw a lot of red herrings at us, or presumed red herrings. Of course, we have the Matt Hardy reference here. Matt Hardy making references in his little vlogs. We have a lot of teasing that new AEW signee, Lance Archer, could be the Exalted One because Evil Uno and the AEW account did a lot of tweeting about everybody dying. So, they're continuing to keep us guessing. Lance Archer is announced for the next television. So it seems like if he was going to be the reveal as the Exalted One, then you probably wouldn't just announce that he's going to be on the TV coming up. So remains to be seen. And then, of course, we also had Raven just sitting in the crowd when the Dark Order made their last television appearance. So I think they've done a good job, at least establishing some candidates and mixing up a little bit just to get the speculation brewing. Whether they'll be able to deliver something cool to, capitalize on all that speculation remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, I think that this is fun. I think it's been real interesting how they've kind of played the social game with this, and it's getting to a point now where like it has to be settled soon, or else it's just be built up, and then whomever it's going to be is just a great disappointment.
Well, the Dark Order is basically trying to hire a boss, trying to hire the main guy in the company. And, it can be hard to find qualified candidates. It can take a long time. We've seen that in the story, right? How long now we've been talking about who the Exalted One is going to be?
Several months at this point.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just have too many applicants. Sometimes it's Lance Archer, it's Matt Hardy, it's Christopher Daniels.
It's Raven. I mean,
right.
You have to do a lot of vetting of applicants here.
Well, luckily for the Dark Order and for EEPod listeners, ZipRecruiter makes it easy. And you can check them out at ZipRecruiter.com/VOW, as in Voices of Wrestling. ZipRecruiter, Dark Order could have used this. They just send your job to over 100 of the web's leading job sites. Of course, they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job.
Absolutely.
And like for Dark Order, they could have even added things that are specific to them, screening questions to the job listing, so that ZipRecruiter could filter candidates out and just focus on the best ones.
Yeah, if someone is submitting their application to be the Exalted One and they have less than 3 years experience, toss them in the bin. ZipRecruiter tosses them in the bin because you're looking for someone who has enough experience to lead an organization, and ZipRecruiter takes care of that for you. How effective are they? They are so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. We've been waiting around 2 months to find out who the Exalted One is, AB. ZipRecruiter could have fixed this up. Like, we would know on Saturday.
Right. And that's why we know that the Dark Order hasn't used ZipRecruiter.
But they should.
It would have just taken one day to get a quality candidate. And right now, the Dark Order and you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Our listeners can go to ZipRecruiter.com/VOW. That's ZipRecruiter.com/VOW. ZipRecruiter.com/VOW. It's ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Next up was the sit down that we talked about. Good old JR sitting down with Adam Page, Kenny Omega, and the Bucks. I think we've pretty much laid this out, but basically the idea was JR talking about how the Bucks are still the best team in best tag team in the world. Kenny was agreeing. He suggests, hey, me and Page were kind of thrown together. We kind of fell into this. Of course, that irritates Adam Page. And then the Bucks talk about how well Kenny and Page know them. They say they're our best friends in the world. And then that's where it dives into this story about, you're not the best tag team in the world. We are. We're going to take the belts. And then Page says, hey, I wanted to leave the Elite. Boom. After everything we did for you. And then it goes through the whole thing that we've already talked about. But as we said, just really effective. But it definitely got me more excited. I was already excited for the match. The match is going to be good. But as we, I think, showed earlier when we were trying to talk about which way this is going to go, it's suddenly much more compelling. I'm not sure what's going to happen, and I'm excited to see which way they go with it. All right, last on the show, the Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley weigh in. We got Gary Michael Capetta out to ring announce. He tries to get Chris Jericho to get on the scale first. Jericho says, no wonder WCW went out of business. The Painmaker goes last, man.
Great work here.
Great line.
Yeah.
Mox does jump up on there. He takes off his sleeveless sweatshirt and gets on the scale. Weighs in at 234 pounds. The Mox. One of the ring girls looked very impressed with Mox when he took the hoodie off. So, Renee Young, I don't know if she was watching, but she couldn't have been happy.
I did like the degree they went to make this like a real actual weigh-in. Like, that was the obvious intent of the Ring Girls, was like, hey, this is what they do in the UFC and for boxing, so we'll do it here, which I understand. But they packed the ring with people. Like, you just had 3 random guys in the back, like, oh, we're the officials or commissioners or whatever the fuck, just to fill the ring and make it feel like more of an event. You had the crew guy there doing the scale. They had that big banner in the back, like a fight banner, which was, awesome attention to detail. So appreciate them going the extra mile to make it feel like an event and not just like a show closing segment.
Yeah, I was really worried about the segment when it was announced, because I thought this would just be very cringe and just been like, oh, we're just going to do a weigh-in because we've done contract signings before and we've kind of just doing all the tropes. But I think they actually embodied the whole like preposterousness of a fight week weigh-in. I think they did such a great job, as like Nate said.
Then it was Jericho's turn to weigh in, and he did his whole gimmick where he kept kind of stepping up to the scale, but then he would pause and take one more piece of clothing off or one more accessory off, which played very funny. I thought it was very well done. And then they were in Kansas City, and Jericho gets the mic and says, "Aaron Mahone is a piece of shit," which still got a lot of heat, even though that, of course, is not the name of the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. Very funny. So they attack Moxley instead of weighing in. They attack Moxley. Gets a little comeback. He bloodies Jericho, and then the Inner Circle beats Mox down. We get Dustin Rhodes come out. He clotheslines Jake Hager out of the ring. They fight through the crowd. They're in the concourse. Hager low blows Dustin in the concourse, throws him into the Dippin' Dots concession stand. Darby comes out. Sammy breaks Darby's skateboard over Darby's head. And then finally, the ring is cleared. We see just Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho in the middle of the ring. They exchange punches. Mox has Jericho set up for a paradigm shift, but Santana gives him a low blow. And then Jericho hits the paradigm shift on Mox on the scale.
Okay, so we know the Dippin' Dots thing here was obviously a reference to the previous concourse brawl that we had in this promotion. Do we think that only this Dippin' Dots appearance was integrated advertising? Or do we think both Dippin' Dots appearances were integrated advertising and they're just playing it slow?
I think this is the second. I think that they did it unintentionally the first time, and then now for the second time, it was integrated advertising because it was very clear what they were doing this time. And I was like, okay, they made a big point of it. So a lot of embedded marketing going on here.
Well, here's my question out of this segment. We were worried about this coming into this week's Dynamite. We were talking about, is there a way to get your 2 guys in your main event program in the ring for not a match, but something where you can kind of anticipate physicality happening? Is there a way to do that and be compelling? And I feel like I'm hearing from everybody that we thought this was successful, that we enjoyed it, and it advanced the story, maybe not as well as some previous things, but it let us get more excited for the match.
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park here. I love this segment. I thought that Moxley, knowing that he was out, man, doing like the short headbutt into Jericho, busting him open, and was a really nice touch. And then just the way they kind of set it up, that we were teased the big face off, but then Santana got involved, and then Jericho kind of turning the tricks onto Mox. I think that was really well done. And I love me a big brawl to blow off the show before we go to pay-per-view, baby. I think that across that, like, you heard the crowd of Kansas City, they were going bananas for this.
Yeah, I'll say they didn't hit it out of the park. They hit like a double, maybe a triple, between a double and a triple, I would say. The segment was a success. Everybody came off well. It didn't like fuel a fire inside me where I got fired up and I have to see this match now. It was just like a fun segment to watch, is where I would put it.
All right, for Dark, I don't know if they've announced how this is going to be aired. Like last pay-per-view, they just threw it up on Friday, but we don't know anything now. But here's what they taped for Dark: Luther versus Sonny Kiss. What a fucking match. Britt Baker versus Miranda Alizé. Dark Order versus Peter Avalon and Michael Nakazawa. And the Private Party versus Brandon Cutler and Sean Spears. On March 4th, the next episode of Dynamite. Obviously, no matches announced. They're going to be in Denver, Colorado. We'll know more coming out of Revolution. But Lance Archer will debut for the promotion in Denver. All right. Before we get into the Revolution preview, and we'll do this quickly since we already did 2 ad reads on this show, but just want to remind you to go to patreon.com/everythingelite. The month's almost over, and coming up on Sunday, you're going to get our Revolution instant reaction. So it's a great time to subscribe. It's we have $3, $5, and $8 tiers. $5 and up will get you the Revolution instant reaction and everything else every other piece of audio that we post. And then we'll be back on Wednesday for AEW Light, which is our Dynamite pregame. And it'll be really important this coming week because we don't know anything about the show yet. So we can't talk about it now, but we'll talk about it on AEW Light. So come check us out. Give us a shot. Patreon.com/everythingelite. All right, now we're going to preview Revolution, and we'll start with the top, baby. Who's excited? Chris Jericho, the champion, defending the men's world title against Jon Moxley. I want to know exactly one thing, and that is who's going to win this match?
I think the audience is going to win, Aaron. And I think that's mostly because this is going to be a million times better than the Ambrose Asylum match, which these two famously had in WWE, one of the worst matches of all time. And now you basically have 2 brand new performers, 2 guys with a fresh lease on life. I really do have to wonder how much I would really like to get. I can't listen to Talk is Jericho every week. I just can't do it. I just want to get like Jericho's real perspective on being in the wrestling business and his whole life, working in every style of promotion, doing like, basically shindies and ECW and working in Mexico and working for War in Japan, working for New Japan, and then working for WCW, which is like Major League, and then like going to the WWF and the WWE and like just getting into their insane system of scripting where you're like, he has to go and sit outside Vince McMahon's office for 3 hours just to make his promo not suck ass. And then like now he's just like in a real wrestling promotion. I would just love to, he must be loving life right now. Anyway, Chris Jericho wins. Chris Jericho's retaining. I'm making the call.
Okay.
I'm not that confident in it.
You don't sound that confident.
No, I don't. I just, Jon Moxley ate a pin in New Japan on his last tour. He's their current U.S. champion. I don't think AEW cares that much about that. Like, I think they understand that, the fans understand him eating pinfalls elsewhere is not that big a deal in 2020. I just, Chris Jericho's so hot. And I don't know if Moxley would maintain that hotness if he's in the top position and he's not the underdog anymore.
I guess like the big thing you have to ask yourself, or this is kind of 2 sides of the same coin, is what's next for Jericho if he loses, and who's going to be built up as Mox's first offense if Moxley wins. And I don't know if the one side of the coin that what Jericho's doing next is too clear. I do know that there's Fozzy tours coming up soon, and that does kind of temper my opinion. I think they start in April. So it does this. I think that when I look at this match and how they've built it, this match is kind of the story of the first chapter of AEW. Started at Double or Nothing when Moxley made his surprise debut, and he took out both Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, and they've kept on going off it. That the midpoint of this like first chapter was when Moxley defeated Kenny Omega in the Lights Out match, and now we have this. This is kind of like bracketing this first year for the promotion, as then they're going to go into the second Double or Nothing on Memorial Day weekend. I just think that Jericho has done a great job as a champion, and I don't know where he goes after the championship is done. Whereas with Jon Moxley, I feel like there's a lot of things you could do with Moxley as a champion now. You would be able to pack as an obvious person to be a first defense there if they're not going to have like the dumb rematch clause there. And then you also have people like Moxley versus Hangman Page. That's something that I feel like is a natural title match. And I feel like you have a lot of opportunities there that you could build up. But I don't know. Like, this is probably, when I look up and down this card, This is the hardest match to decide, just because I don't know which way to go. I personally think it's going to be Jon Moxley, though, just for the spirit of debate.
I changed my mind. I think it's gonna be Moxley too.
Damn it, Nate.
Wrong.
I don't. Moxley's been the best protected person in the promotion to this point, so it seems unlikely that they're going to have him lose clean to Jericho, who's taken pinfalls from Scorpio Sky and almost taken pinfalls from Marco Stunt, and has largely been cast as a wrestler who's a great wrestler but needs his backup in order to escape those sort of situations. And I don't know that you want to do another fuck finish like you did in the Cody match, where your big over babyface gets screwed over in the Jericho match. So I think Moxley wins. I changed my mind.
So there's two things you don't want to do here. And one, I think, is that. But the other is, do you really want to start this promotion with your first two champions being WWE guys? I thought all along that Chris Jericho made sense as the first champion because you could use him to give a rub to the next guy. Well, Jon Moxley doesn't need a rub, and it doesn't help anybody. I mean, he doesn't gain a whole lot by beating Chris Jericho here.
Then what do you do with Moxley after this? Because he's going to get cycled down, and he's supposed to be one of your big stars. Like,
You can only have one champion at a time. I mean, you could say the same thing about Chris Jericho.
Well, Chris Jericho has the obvious thing of that a Fozzy tour is about to happen, so it's easy to de-emphasize him.
You could. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's hard to tell who's the next challenger at all. Although, if I start booking it out, I think, if Chris Jericho wins, this Omega Page thing blows up. That the guy who wins that can be the next challenger, and you got 3 months to build that.
So I agree on that point, but that's going to be heel Adam Page getting his big elevating win over babyface Kenny Omega,
Babyface
setting
Adam
him
Page,
up
right.
for heel Adam Page against babyface Jon Moxley, which we haven't seen, and I think would be a pretty good program.
But Page has to beat Chris Jericho eventually in this promotion. That's his story.
Yes, but no hurry.
No hurry at all. But that is his story. It's just, to me, the story of this feud has been that Moxley isn't smart enough to not get outmanned. So he will get outmanned in this main event. I think they shouldn't do a fuck finish to have Jericho beat Moxley, but that's the story they're telling.
Yeah, that. I think that would be a rough finale to your second big pay-per-view world title match. I don't know that would be received super well, but you're not wrong about what the characters of these guys tell us should happen in the match.
Also, if that's what happens, your next program can be a rematch, and they can. It's kind of weird now because like the story that makes sense if they hadn't just done this is that this builds to a cage match that keeps out the inner circle, right?
Sure.
So they can do some other sort of stipulation, but maybe that's why there's not an obvious next challenger, is because we're going to just run this back.
Or maybe just because they, don't do as clear a job of tiering people as, like a New Japan does, where we sort of know who's in line, until you get to an event like the New Japan Cup, which never mind was canceled. But on your other point, I was against having Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley basically feud at all because they're two ex-WWE guys who had a fucking terrible feud in WWE. But that just doesn't bother me anymore because they've been so entertaining on this program. So on that point, it wouldn't annoy me if Moxley was their second champion because he's a big fucking star. So
it wouldn't annoy me, but the guys who run this promotion are so sensitive to what people talk about on Twitter that I think they would be
logged off. They logged off.
Okay, but everybody else, I mean, it's like constantly like, oh, we hear your criticism. It's like, dude, it's 30 people on Twitter. Who gives a shit?
No, but I think Cody's also very cognizant of that and is like, you have to be aware of when it's 30 people, being erratic about whatever the fucking issue, or when it's like, basically everybody that watches the show go like, this Nightmare Collective thing is not really working. Like I think they have found a pretty good ability to read that difference.
Either way, I got Jericho here. I don't see the point of Moxley winning at this point.
He's the biggest babyface on the show that's able to win the title. That's your point. He's had almost a full year of feuding with Chris Jericho, and this is the mountaintop.
It doesn't build anywhere. It's not compelling to me for John Moxley to win this match.
You can't always build. At some point, you have to pay off and then rebuild. And just because we can't come up with new stories for everyone, we have to hope that they have new stories planned for people, because otherwise, they're not doing what their obligation is, I think. But so just because we can't come up with where to go with everybody next, if Jericho wins here, that doesn't make it any clearer what they should do with anybody next.
I mean, Moxley versus Pac is an obvious thing. They've had the feud, and Pac is not satisfied. And Pac's other big opponent is still like out there that is too busy with having a tag team situation. Pac has argued that he's been the best wrestler in the world. There you go. You move on to John Moxley and Pac. I think that's a very obvious thing. And if you try to say WWE versus WWE, I'll come through the TV and throttle you, because Pac's a Dragon Gate guy.
It is, but
Pac's a Dragon Gate guy.
The clear story is that Moxley has to get Jericho one-on-one, and he can't beat him because he's outmanned. And he's got to get him isolated. And that is when Moxley can beat him and win the title. That's a compelling story to me.
That does make sense for the characters.
All right, tag team titles. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, the champions, defending against the Young Bucks. I know we've talked a lot about where this story could go, but I just think Omega and Page are retaining.
Yeah.
No way. Bucks win. Kenny Omega selling the brutal match he had with Pac, takes the loss from the Young Bucks, and then finally get the big moment here where Adam Page violently turns on Kenny Omega, paying off what they attempted to do months ago at this point, and separating Adam Page from the Elite, turning him heel, setting up the Kenny Omega versus Adam Page feud that they set up on BTE also months ago. Or they foreshadowed on BTE. It's really like that Kurt Vonnegut book Galapagos, where they just spend the first 3 chapters telling you exactly what's going to happen at the end of the book, and then it all does. That's what happened in here. Is Adam Page as a heel feuding with Kenny Omega, building him up for that next world title challenge.
No, I think that this is an ongoing thing. I think that Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, Page and Omega, Page knows that Omega's hurt, that he's ailing after wrestling for 33 minutes 3 nights before. They're able to persevere through this, and I think the Young Bucks snap. And I think this leads to a big stipulation match at Double or Nothing too, because I feel like they love running the Elite or Golden Elite versus Bullet Club, just interfaction warfare thing. And I think that this is a storyline that they will be able to continue. And I think that that's the very obvious endpoint. I feel like this is just a step in the direction that I think that maybe it's I don't want to say fluky win, but maybe it's something that they get out with the skin of their teeth, and the Bucks say, okay, you got the skin of teeth here. We want to take you in Las Vegas, and we want to take you in a ladder match, because that's our match. And we're going to prove to you definitively that we are the best tag team in the world, because you're going to come into our world now. I think that's what you do, because I think that's the best way to go there. I think that this match, they've built it. And I think they've built it to a certain point where tensions are hot, but it's not like that they're going to completely blow up. So I feel like that you still have a lot more mileage in this feud. And I think that's an easy reason why the champions retain.
I just don't see throwing these titles around again so quickly and changing. If we assume that Moxley's going to beat Jericho, I'd hate to change both my titles on the same night in this new promotion. On top of that, I just categorically cannot fathom or understand why you would turn Adam Page heel. He's the biggest, other than Cody, he's the biggest babyface star in this company. That's why I disagree about even the Moxley thing that you said, Mike. It's Page is the biggest star, and turning him heel at this point, I think, is a huge mistake.
Well, either way, you just said it. He's the biggest star. Kenny Omega, also one of their biggest stars. They've got a stock tag division, and they don't have a lot of clear singles challengers, as we just established, for the big belt. So Young Bucks win here, so you can break up the tag team, move these guys back into single competition where you can start giving them more meaningful wins, start making them world title challengers, and then the Young Bucks can start mixing it up, again with your private parties and your Dark Orders and all these other teams who are not seeing wrestle matches because there's not enough time on the show to give them real estate.
regardless, this is going to rule. I feel confident about that. Kenny's basically already told us that they're planning something very special for this. So it's going to be great. The women's world title, our champion Nyla Rose taking on Chris Statlander. I'm sure this is going to be good, but I just cannot get excited about it. I'm very bummed.
Well, you didn't get to see the great thing on Countdown to Revolution where they all were trying to tackle Chris Statlander's alien persona, and all the other announcers were like, she says she's an alien. And then like Taz was like, she must have been into aliens as a kid. I'm not. And then Tony completely was like, she booped me on the nose, and I was like, I was transported into another dimension. And that was like, okay, now this is a gimmick that I think is kind of cringe, but now they're kind of making light of it. But yeah, this is a match that still feels like it's wedged in there. Like, I know that was something that I kind of heated and hauled about earlier on, but this title match is the epitome of being wedged on because they needed to have a title match here, and it'll be fine. Nyla should win.
So yeah, I think Nyla wins. She had that big promo and is being geared up, I think, to run the division for a little bit here. But to play devil's advocate, I guess the advantage of doing these rankings and these win-loss records all the time is you can have, if you're not going to go to the trouble of doing like a real build or whatever, you can just do a perfunctory thing like, well, we're doing a title match. Okay, number one person fights number two person. Like, it gives you that little out, and better to do that, I think, than to throw Big Swole into this match and make it a nonsensical Cracker Barrel clash again, just because she happened to walk out on the stage. Like, that would be some, goofy ass booking. Like, oh, well, Big Swole came out. She's not in the top 5, but she came out on the stage and confronted everybody. So now she's in a triple threat for no reason. That would be annoying. This is the preferable match to that, I think.
This should have been the Nyla Riho match. This is where they should have blown that whole thing off.
Yes.
Yeah, Nyla's obviously winning this. Next up, we have Cody taking on MJF. I just cannot envision a scenario where Cody does not win this match.
Oh, I can. MJF is a shitty person, and he squeaks out a win. And now it's another thing that Cody has to overcome, the fact that he had to go through all these trials and tribulations to have this match, and then it's yanked out of him from like Wardlow getting involved or the ring getting used and something like this. Like, that, this is not a foregone conclusion here, Aaron Bentley. Think this out.
It is. He's already overcome everybody. This is the opposite of the Jericho Moxley thing.
No, this is the ultimate test, because obviously MJF's going to have tricks up his sleeve. I think Cody wins because I think they're smart enough to book baby faces to be valiant and overcome odds and, have great shine segments and then end up getting the best of their opponents. And, you said Adam Page is their biggest star. Cody's their biggest star. But, of course, you can't challenge for the world title. So, I mean, it would be interesting if Moxley wins the big belt. MJF just as a holdover challenge, heat him up just as being a shitty heel. He doesn't need to beat Jon Moxley or anything, but he can go on there and cut some promos on him and have Wardlow as his backup, and that'd be a fun little feud, I think. Also something fresh because we haven't seen Moxley interact with either of those guys.
I'm sorry, Cody is the Sisyphus of AEW. He's going to constantly look like he's rolling the boulder up the hill, and as soon as it looks like that the boulder's all the way up and it's going to be bounced just right, it rolls down and crashes on him. Like, I feel like that's how they built up the world title match. I feel like that's what they built up here. And as long as the crowd's still invested in him, you could have the boulder crush Cody Rhodes as many times as possible. And whereas MJF gets the win here, as Nate says, if we're in the world where Moxley's world champion, absolutely you could run Moxley versus MJF. That's a complete fresh matchup. I think there's a lot of ways to go with this, and that's why I think MJF should be the one winning. Cody will be fine.
I couldn't disagree with that more. It's already hard to care about him because he can't challenge for the title. And I think he will, if they do shit like that and they keep doing it,
you don't care about the ace of the promotion. The title's a prop. He's the embodiment of the AEW spirit here. And just because he doesn't, can't challenge for the prop doesn't make what he does irrelevant.
Yes, it does. The point of wrestling is to win the title.
The point of wrestling is to entertain the fans. Tell stories. Stories, Aaron.
No, the point of wrestling is selling tickets, baby.
Okay. You all know what we're fucking talking about. The point of wrestling is winning title. Rossi was in the World Wrestling Federation because he wanted to win the title.
No, because Vince McMahon saw him at the end of the PWI 500 and said that I can make a star out of anybody, even the guy at the very end of the list.
We're talking about the actual canon of the show. We're talking about what it means to the
I know.
characters.
I'm needling you. I'm aware.
Yeah, and that's why I introduced the idea that Cody is Sisyphus.
Well, Cody's going to be Suxiphus.
Oh my God.
Fuck.
Mike, can you mark the time down and delete that? On the edit?
Yeah. Jeez, man. I thought that you've done some lame things, buddy.
Oh, just wait. It's going to get worse. Darby Allin taking on Sammy Guevara. I mean, yeah, Darby has to win.
Darby's got to win. He's eaten a lot of losses. It's okay to beat him all the time, but this is his big blood feud with the guy who shoved his skateboard into his neck. Yeah, Darby's got to win. He's going to do a big coffin drop on him. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, this is kind of, I like how there's kind of like these like matches they've built up on this, like Darby versus Sammy, Pac and Orange Cassidy, that like these are like major stakes matches. Like what happens if Orange Cassidy beats Pac? Like that's a huge thing. What happens if Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin? Both of these guys need momentum. I mean, the truth about all elite wrestling is it's about competition, Aaron. That you need to have these wins. So I think it has to be Darby because Darby is someone, as we've seen, is a very singular character in the roster. And I think that that as seen through other companies, there's ways to treat Darby and there's ways not to treat Darby. And I think the best service to Darby is that he needs to have a stepping stone win. And this is a big stepping stone win for him. He was not on full gear. Now he looks like he's going to be like in the 5th match on this pay-per-view. And you keep on moving him up. I guess next pay-per-view has the Casino Battle Royal. I think Darby wins that, and you keep building it up, baby. I think that this is the start of the rise of Darby Allin.
I forgot to do the one planned bit I had for Cody MJF. So on the Patreon Q&A, we were asked what Bernie should do if he showed up in AEW, and we had some great answers. You should go listen to that on the Patreon. But now I've come up with the best answer, which is before this match starts, but after the entrances, let me thank Downstate for their music.
That's a pretty good Bernie you got there.
Thanks. SB can unfortunately report that I have done that bit with about 100 bands at this point around our house.
Bless her heart.
I'm glad to be in the Wintrust Arena and to be out here with the Downstate band.
Yeah, so Downstate is playing Cody live.
It's Downstraight.
No, it's
Downstate.
I thought it was Downstraight. Have we had this argument before?
It's spelled like S-T-R-A-I-T. It's A-I-T. It's Downstate, but not S-T-A-T-E, S-T-A-I-T for whatever fucking reason.
Who knows? All right, the true main event of AEW Revolution, Dustin Rhodes taking on Jake Hager.
I don't really think this matters. I don't know. Like they've protected Dustin Rhodes, so I think he wins, but you can heat up Jake Hager with his fucking Hager effect and just slamming his knee into Dustin's nuts. They really should have been playing up the fact that both these guys' finishes are hitting the other person in the balls, because that's a much more fun angle than what they've been doing to this point. Like if this was about like, hey, these guys like hitting each other in the nuts, they like doing Draymond Green, Shinsuke Nakamura shit, then I'd be all over it.
As Aaron has said, this match is going to be terrible. It will go long, and it's going to be the drain on the show. I think that the nice thing about having Jake Hager for so long was that he was able to not have matches, and now we have this cruel fate of having to watch a Jake Hager match on pay-per-view. So I think this is the time where you lay it on out there. What's going to happen, AB, if this match is terrible, as it will be, and will be longer than 10 minutes, which it will be?
This match is going to rule. It's probably the best built match on the show.
Get out of here.
It got second billing on the Go Home show of Dynamite, proving how important it is to this card. It's I'd say it's the make or break match of the card. Like if this delivers, then it's going to be, an all-timer pay-per-view. And if it doesn't deliver, then well, I don't even have to consider that because this is going to be a great match. Very excited about it. I don't really care who wins because, unfortunately, Nate already did this bit, but the winner is all of us. getting to see this. I mean, it's just what a delight.
The cold medicine has, after 11 days, completely killed your brain chemistry, and you're just saying things because this is a match that, like, Dustin has proven that, like, he still can go, like, he's a great 50-year-old wrestler. But what confidence do you have in Jake Hager here at all? There's no reason to be confident whatsoever before you even interject here, because he's
Literally
trash.
everything he's done in this promotion has been great.
Except he hasn't had to wrestle. I mean, he's able to be 6'5" and kick people in the balls. It's easy to get over that way.
Yeah, he's been great at it. He's going to be great at this.
If they build this match around the Hager effect and him kneeing Justin Rhodes on the balls, it's going to be good. If they just have to build it around that.
Dude, every beat of this story has been about somebody getting kicked in the fucking balls. It's going to be about the balls.
That's not true. This story
not
is
true
based
at
on him
all.
breaking his arm in the car door. That
Which
is not
is
his balls.
Very similar to like a dick. Your arm, similar to a dick.
All right.
It was
You're
built
done.
around
You're done
that.
for the evening.
The
Our next
closing
match.
angle was a low blow.
Next match here on the card.
All about
Pac
balls.
from Dragon Gate representing I don't know, Mike Spearsville versus Orange Cassidy.
RED, Real Extreme Diffusion. But yeah, no, this match is going to own. This match will be much better than the one that Aaron Bentley.
Well, speaking of a motherfucker who hasn't wrestled in this promotion, it's Orange Cassidy.
He's wrestled.
He
in this
has
promotion.
wrestled. He's been in a 6-man.
Not a singles match.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Orange Cassidy is miles better of a wrestler than Jake Hager ever was.
Jake Hager kick his ass any day of the week.
I think that how much Dayquil have you drank over the last 2 weeks? Like, let's get the. I feel like
Aaron,
that.
did you take down your Byleth wall scroll and put up a Cult of Cornet certificate there? Is that what I see?
I think that is.
Jake Hager is 6'5". He played college football. He's a real athlete. And Orange Cassidy is some dumb shit who just shoves his fucking hands in his pants.
He's very smart. He had a very well-paying job outside of pro wrestling.
Yeah,
As a
so did
result
Britt
of his
Baker. How'd that pay?
Excellent. Also very smart and a great highlight of the AEW promotion. One of the top acts. That's what this card is missing. Is a
Thank
Britt
God.
Baker match.
They even recognize it. They don't even put her on the fucking show. Very smart.
Anyway, Pac versus Orange
Fine.
Cassidy is going to kick ass. Going to be fun to see the crowd react to him unleashing his full power for the first time in this promotion.
In the buy-in match. Actually, no, I'm predicting Orange Cassidy wins this match because what we're all missing is that the next world title picture is Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy. It's a brilliant match. You can throw it on Dynamite. People will love it.
That's going to be very fun. It doesn't necessitate beating Pac, I don't think, but like they gave, they did Jericho versus Jungle Boy and Jericho versus Darby Allin without having to make Pac eat another loss. So they can figure out some other way to get to it. But
what would you guys open with? Darby and Sammy?
Yes, exactly that.
Yeah, that makes most sense out of all these matches. I mean, it's either that or Pac and Orange Cassidy, one of those two.
The buy-in match, SCU takes on Dark Order, and presumably we find out who the Exalted One is.
Well, either here or on an upcoming television shortly thereafter.
Who's it going to be? Who we got?
I think they try to mislead us with Christopher Daniels here, and the finish of this match hinges on Christopher Daniels revealing his true allegiance, which is probably to SCU. So I think that's what we get here, just to advance that story a little bit and eliminate one possible contender for the Exalted One. I don't think we actually get the reveal here.
Yeah, I think that we are getting close to it, and I think that are doing things where they eliminate the red herrings that they presented. So they'll eliminate Chris Daniels as a red herring this night. In Denver, they'll eliminate Lance Archer, and then you have something to do on the 11th. And I think the big reveal is going to happen on 3/18 in Rochester, New York, when it's going to be formerly known as Luke Harper as the leader of the Dark Order. That's my pick.
It's a good pick.
Good off the board pick there. Good
I like
swerve.
that. All right. Well, I think that's it. You guys got anything else you want to chat about tonight?
Nope. I think that's all I got.
If you are in the South Carolina area, your primary is on Saturday, the 29th. Make sure to go out and vote. I've been out there. Yes, for Bernie Sanders. I've been out there canvassing. I'll be going out there canvassing tomorrow / yesterday / today, according to when you listen to this. So yeah, make sure you go out there and do this. I was about to bring up something about registration, but registration's been closed for a month. So
yeah. And remember, if you don't live in South Carolina, you can text for Bernie, you can call for Bernie. It's very easy, and it's like affirming when you do it. I also, if you live like vaguely close to any Super Tuesday state, they're going to be doing a lot of stuff this weekend. If you have the ability to get there, then, I would recommend it. If you go on BernieSanders.com, they have lots of trips you can take from all over to a lot of the Super Tuesday states. So I would recommend it. And if you want to hear talk about doing that, Aaron Taub and I did so on the last episode of The Aarons on the Patreon. So you can check that out when he went to New Hampshire. All right. So follow us on Twitter at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. Those are all spelled out on the Everything AEW Twitter account. Make sure you're subscribed, rating and reviewing, 5 stars only. Patreon.com/Everything Elite. And make sure you check out our friends at GetRoman.com/VOW, where you can get a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. And our friends at ZipRecruiter.com/VOW, where you can get a free trial of ZipRecruiter just by using that code. So that's it. I'm Aaron, for Mike, for Nate. We'll see you next week.